Cyberdopamine here. So Intel claims that the performance inside of this handheld is up to 42% faster when compared to the Xbox Ally X. This is the new MSI CLAW EX, and I'm going to show you performance as well as what I like and what I don't like after spending almost 40 hours of game time with this device. It's got some impressive specs, but it obviously comes with a cost. Let's start off with performance. So let's just go ahead and rip some Crimson Desert. 1080p, high settings, no frame gen, and this is the frame rates we're getting on the Xbox Ally X. You can see we're at 27 frames per second, and we're at 36 frames per second on the Claw. And if we do the math here, the Claw is currently showing a 37% increase when compared to the Ally X. Here's a look at 007. This is a fun game, by the way. On the Ally X, we're getting 72 frames per second on low settings, and with the MSI CLAW, we're getting 81. So with this side by side, the Claw is showing a 12.5% increase. I even grabbed Stalker 2. If y'all know, like, this game is freaking rough because it's Unreal Engine. It's got that Unreal Engine finickiness to it. We're hitting 60 to 70 frames per second on low settings. Without frame gen. You know, that's a big deal for a handheld to be hitting those numbers on this game. Now, I want to mention that this is not sponsored. They're not paying me to do this or anything like that. But let's talk about frame gen, because I know a lot of us are not cool with frame gen. I get it. But this new chip has a better optimized frame gen system that honestly is very freaking impressive, to where somebody who's super sensitive with latency like I am is pretty happy using frame gen. So here's a look at Crimson Desert. We can go up to 4x frame gen, which is freaking wild. Look at those frame rates that we're hitting. From the high FPS to the high settings and no upscaling, I feel like I'm experiencing this game the way I would with my gaming PC, but the latency is pretty gnarly. However, if we go to 2x, the latency is actually extremely impressive. It's far better than like lossless scaling or anything like that. And so I genuinely think the smoothness to latency ratio is worth it with the games I've tested it on, but the catch is that not all games support this kind of frame gen. So keep in mind, what I've just shown you are just rough little estimates. Like, I'm not going deep with the benchmarks. I'll do that later when I have more time with this device. But now let's talk about the Claw itself. So this MSI CLAW, dude, I definitely love this form factor a lot more than I did the previous MSI CLAW. It feels like the Xbox Ally X, where it's super grippy and easy to hold. And it's lighter than the Legion Go 2, which is a big deal, right? It's like it's super easy to hold for a very, very long time. And because it's so grippy, you're not like focusing on how you hold the device, where I noticed with the Legion Go 2, you kind of have to like be aware of how you're holding it every once in a while. You got to check in with your hands a bit. This obviously just kind of like melts in your hands, and all you're focusing on is the game, right? Which is how it should be. And one thing I was weird about was like this lip. You see how the screen goes lower than the controllers? At first I was like, that's a little weird, but I noticed when you're playing in bed, you put on your chest, the chin lifts the handheld up a little bit, and it's easier for your hands. And I actually ended up loving this chin because of this reason alone. Also, you don't have to sub if you want to sub. If it's your vibe, you know, it's your vibe. I mentioned this with the MSI CLAW AI. The speakers are absolutely phenomenal on that device. I believe they're using the same drivers on this one, but for some reason, man, these speakers are just even better, it feels like. Like when you are playing on this Claw, you're definitely getting like that full gaming experience, but you can definitely tell there's no OLED. In fact, I noticed that whenever you move the screen away from your eyes, the screen dims down, almost like a privacy screen, where you kind of have to be like head on with the game in order to get the brightness that you would want. I've been playing in like my balcony a little bit, outside, things like that. You definitely see your reflection more than you see the game. Legion Go 2 still has a bigger screen, and it has an OLED screen. Oh, it's so pretty. I guess where the MSI CLAW lacks OLED, the speaker volume and surround effect that these speakers give you, combined with the performance increases that we're seeing across the board, can somewhat make up for having OLED. Like, you're going to get just as immersed, if not a little bit more, on this MSI CLAW than a Legion Go 2. mainly because of audio. And there's like science backing that audio is like one of the biggest things, almost equivalent to visual. But yeah, for you OLED freaks out there, it is low-key a pretty big stinger not having a newer panel, especially when you take into account the price, which I'll bring up here in a sec. But I know a lot of you guys don't care about that, or you don't even want OLED, and you care more about performance than you do the presentation of a game. Then this is like a great option. You know how we tend to go through settings to kind of get the best frame rates? When it comes to downloading and genuinely just like wanting to play games on this handheld, I found myself not worrying about optimizing my games for the best performance, right? So there's a sense of like security and peace of mind knowing that this handheld will in fact play any game you throw at it. If we open up this little tab over here, we can see we've got AI Engine, Endurance, and Manual mode. AI Engine kind of optimizes the game. It basically figures out what the game needs to run, and then it cuts off any extra power that the Claw is producing that it doesn't need to use. So it helps you save a little bit of battery. The Endurance mode is kind of interesting. You can set a target frame rate. You can do 30, 40, or 60, and the Claw will actually only pull enough power from the battery to hit the frame rate that you want to hit. So you're not doing any overkill or underkill, if that makes sense. It kind of just optimizes the performance and the power draw from the battery so that you get good performance, but you also get good battery. And so speaking of battery, here's the crazy freaking thing, man. Performance mode, like that middle point of the Claw, gives you the same performance that the Xbox Ally X gives you at 35 watts. Okay? So you're going to play your games very well, but you're drawing way less power. Therefore, your battery's gonna last much longer. And based off of my testing, I noticed that like the middle point, you know, like the performance mode, I'm getting roughly 2 hours and 40 minutes to 3 hours and 30 minutes of game time. If I go up to manual and I jack everything up, we're looking at like an hour and a half based off my experience. But then if we go pretty conservative, we start sipping power for a lower frame rate, you're able to play games at like 3 to 5 hours, which is pretty crazy. Obviously it depends on the game you play, right? We're not gonna play at 30 FPS all the time, but you're gonna get a lot of battery life out of this handheld. And it definitely seems like a handheld with a ton of battery because it does feel pretty big and bulky. Like you would expect that, but you're definitely gonna get that. Now, because the performance is so much better compared to last year or even just any other handheld on the market at the moment, you're able to dock this thing, grab a controller and play on your TV, even at 1440p. I was playing Crimson Desert at around 80 frames per second at 1440p. Just casually. Obviously FrameGen was turned on, it had to be on, but that was super, super cool. Okay, so let's talk about price. Freaking 1,800 bucks, bro. That's insane. Now, like MSI can't help but price it that way because of RAM, but that's just the reality we face. And to be honest with you, if it did have an OLED and this performance increase, I would 100% justify it actually, low key. But it doesn't have that OLED. It's a pretty expensive handheld. And guys, I don't know what to freaking say. I don't believe in this high pricing stuff, man. It sucks. I freaking built this channel just on handhelds, and it's like we keep getting cool new ones like this, but then I'm like, I wouldn't even pay for this, right? Because of the price is so high. I was doing a little bit of like thinking, because obviously you saw me crash out there. I can see how some people actually can justify this price. Like, you've got a good job, right? But you're pretty busy and you love gaming. This gives you the AAA performance power that you would need for any newer game coming out or the games of the past. So you're in the loop, you're updated with the latest and greatest games, but you're also using the convenience of traveling because it is so powerful. That makes sense. It actually genuinely does. But you have to be a connoisseur. Like an audiophile will drop 5K on a pair of Sennheiser headphones because he can do it and because he loves that stuff. this is definitely a handheld where it's like, you have to know your stuff and you have to love handhelds as a whole. I just don't see anyone who's wanting just to casually pick up a handheld, pick this thing up and be like, oh, this is phenomenal, you know, because you are stuck with Windows too, right? You got to know your PC stuff, especially with like how you tweak the thermals and things like that. When SteamOS comes in, that'll be awesome, but we won't get that for a while. But yeah, that's just me trying to look on the bright side, or maybe you're somebody who wants to dock this computer a bit more than say I would, you know. That also makes sense too, because you could play finals or Call of Duty at like higher frame rates if you really wanted to. That can somewhat help you justify it, but yeah, it's definitely a niche thing, you know what I mean? So all right guys, I'll do a whole review thing later. I need more time with this device before I like give you my ultimatum, but Cyber Dopamine out.